and we'll let you, Andrew, turn everything off and try one more time while we'll go ahead and start, and if we can get the meeting streaming, we will. That's all right.
Yep. Sounds good to me.
Mr. James, you're ready to record on that camera, correct? So everybody have their microphone. The microphones are only for the Zoom meeting, correct?
No, you should still hear it on the PA.
Okay, all right, I just wanted to check. Okay, so if everybody wants to turn on the microphones before we start the meeting, we do, if you picked up an agenda, you'll see that we have an item. We are fortunate to be swearing in a new board member this evening, so that happens before the meeting officially starts. So, Mr. Dufresne.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Ohio, and that you will faithfully and impartially discharge your duties as a member of the Board of Education of Loveland City Schools District, Hamilton County, Ohio, to the best of your ability and in accordance with the laws now in effect and hereinafter be enacted during your continuance in said office until your successor is elected and qualified?
I do.
Thank you. Welcome, Ms. Cecil. And I'm sorry that we don't have it streaming, but we are recording. And so as long as we are recording, I am now going to call this regular meeting of the Loveland Board of Education to order at 6:04. Mr. Dufresne, can we have a roll call?
Ms. Cecil?
Yes.
Reverend Island?
Yes.
Dr. Lorenz?
Here.
Dr. Schweitzenau?
Here.
Mrs. Washington?
Mrs. Washburn will be arriving late. It is senior night this evening, and so she is at the high school right now and will be arriving as soon as those festivities have been completed. I apologize that we're having some trouble streaming the meeting. Mr. Samuels is out this evening, having welcomed a new member of his family last week. I don't know that that's the issue. We have certainly had issues with the technology before, and we're thinking we had it all figured out, but my apologies. For those of you who are not here this evening and listening to this recording, we are here in the Loveland Middle School Intermediate School Media Center, carrying out a meeting in person. We do have a sizable audience this evening, which we appreciate having, so I won't attempt to mention any guests who are here this evening, but I will welcome you all and ask if you would know. Yes, rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For those of you who aren't in the buildings regularly, the reason I'm wearing a Bengals jersey this evening is today in the elementary school, it's Jersey Day. Fortunately, it's Tuesday because tomorrow is Pajama Day. I wear the jersey tonight. I thought maybe the Bengals could use a little bump, so that's, it's lovely colors too. So here we are with a jersey this evening. First item on our agenda is approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda for this evening?
So moved.
Dr. Schweitzenau moved and Ms. Cecil seconded. Any questions about the agenda? I don't believe there are any changes since it was posted, since it went live last week. Mr. Dufresne?
Dr. Schweitzenau?
Yes.
Ms. Cecil?
Yes.
Reverend Island?
Yes.
Dr. Lorenz?
Yes. Motion carried. The next item on the agenda is a motion to approve the minutes of the August 22nd, 2023 meeting. And I will make that motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Dr. Schweitzenau seconded. I did review those minutes and make sure we spelled Reverend Eilert's name correctly. The one place it showed up there, Jonathan, was spelled incorrectly. So I got that fixed. But are there any questions, additions, amendments to the minutes for August 22nd?
Is this the one that the letter that we had sent was going to be attached?
And I was thinking that it was.
You guys don't work on it.
I thought I had reviewed and found it.
Are you logged in?
Yep.
Okay, should be. If not, it certainly will be when it's published.
That's not my word.
I don't see a link. Yes, if you hover over in reports, in board president report, if you hover over that, and now I've just lost the meeting.
Sorry.
That's okay. I just lost Word docs. I have to do a paper. Anyway, the letter is there.
All right.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions or comments? Mr. Giuffre?
Dr. Lewin?
Yes.
Dr. Schwarzenegger?
Yes.
Ms. Season? Rhoda?
Yes.
Motion carried. This is officially when I'm supposed to welcome guests. I have mentioned that we have many guests, and you are all quite welcome. We are glad to have you here. There's one seat left up in the front if somebody needs a seat. I know nobody likes to be in the front row. We've got some smiling faces up here, but there is one more seat up. And I will let you know that in case you are new to our meetings, we do have a hearing of the public session next. We do have a couple of people signed in. If there's anybody who was not aware of that procedure, there are forms over there to sign in if you are wishing to address the board. Otherwise, we will proceed with hearing of the public, and Mr. Giuffre.
The first person is Stefani Wright.
Looks like we've lost all of our microphones.
Oh, okay, it wasn't special, all right. I guess use your stage voice.
When did that go out?
I will check. Good evening, ladies.
Could you wait just 1 second? I want to make sure we hear, and I want to make sure it's recording. We have lost our microphones. Do we need to speak up for that? Carol?
I am seeing the microphone moving.
Pardon?
I'm seeing the microphone view meter going, so I am hearing you.
Okay. Thank you. I just wanted to let you know we were losing some microphones.
Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Stephanie Wright, and I am a resident of Hamilton County, Ohio. I live in the village of Newtown. I'm here to speak in support of Linda Cecil. I have known Linda for 20 years. I originally met Linda when Jackson Hewitt Tax Service back in 2004, and she is one of my dearest friends. I'm speaking in support of her because I know her to be a tenacious, loyal person, and she is the most fiscally savvy person I've ever met, and I am friends with bank presidents. Linda is here to aid and assist. She is to be, when she speaks and makes recommendations or asks questions, I'm asking you, please, keep an open mind. She knows more about finance than most people. Her intentions that have been expressed to me is she's trying to help the school board expand the budget so that more projects can be covered without unnecessary expenditures. She is a person of fine quality. She is very loyal, and she has helped me personally simply by savvy shopping, helping my father expand his limited budget and a home repair, and getting 3 storm doors for the price of 1. And this is something that she would like to bring to the board to allow more projects to be covered and not necessarily cost as much. She's not your enemy. Please keep an open mind when she asks questions or offers suggestions. She's here to help. So for those of you who have opposing politics, try to keep politics out of it, because this is really about students and teachers and staff. I appreciate your time, and thank you for hearing me. Have a good night.
Thank you. We appreciate your time.
Next, we have Marcia Newman. Why am I talking to my
Because we've been trained to talk to the microphone.
Can I have, since there's only 2 speakers, is there only 2 speakers? Or
There are only 2 speakers.
can I have extra time per the board policy in case it runs over?
How much time are you asking for?
You know, probably not much, but it would probably be about 5 minutes, maybe. I have like two things.
All right.
I mean, it's,
Or just set the timer for 5 minutes and we'll see where we are.
okay. All right, thank you very much. At the May 2022 board meeting, it was stated during the discussion to approve the May 2022 5-year forecast, quote, "The only difference between November and May is the fiscal year 22. We have a lot more information now. We have 10 months of actual and 2 months of projected left," end quote. At the next meeting on June 6th, it was stated, quote, "The forecast has 3 years historical, 4 years projected, and currently we are in this year with 1 month left. And just to give you an idea of what our tolerances are, we are within 28,000 in revenue on a 52 million, and we're within 0.25% on expenditures, and that number is 114,000 out of 52 million. So we're coming in currently right where we had projected that we needed to be at this point in time with money with 1 month left." At both meetings, it was highlighted that the May 5-year forecast for the current year, with 10 months of actual data to draw on and only 2 months left to forecast. Fast forward to May of 2023, with the same 10 months of actuals and only 2 months to forecast. The board approved the 5-year forecast with an understated $2 million fiscal year 23 ending cash balance. At the July 18th board meeting, with the fiscal year 23 ending data to be approved, there was not one question or discussion why there was a $2 million difference between what the board approved in May and what the actuals were in June. The $2 million difference was not made transparent nor explained. The board was told fiscal year 23, as well as a preview for the fall 5-year forecast, would be included in the August meeting. It was not. The district repeatedly stated with certainty it was headed for financial distress and state oversight in December of 23 without new tax revenue. You predicted this position with the publication of the ODE required November 2022 and updated twice in January, but not submitted, May 5-year forecast, which forecast a 1.7 million deficit in the general fund ending balance as of 6/30 of 26, thereby triggering financial oversight by the ODE. Loveland Boyce challenged these forecasts using the district's actual year-to-date information as of December 31st of 22 and as March 31st of 23. While the district forecast showed a fiscal year 23 ending balance of 13.3 million, Loveland Boyce forecast, using the actual year-to-date data noted above, projected a fiscal year ending balance of between 14.4 million and 14.8 million, depending on which of the two methods of projection was used. In fact, the district's final report of the actual general fund cash balance was 15.2 million. How was the community better able to project this balance than the district? Why did the board fail to update the forecast in November 22 and May of 23 for actual year-to-date results? These are the questions the community is asking and the district is failing to answer. The actual results, had they been reflected on a timelier basis in the 5-year forecast, would have nullified one of the district's levy narratives, that the district would be in fiscal distress by 12/23. Unfortunately, the district has a long-standing practice of making the 5-year forecast paint the picture that supports their levy narrative, and the board fails to provide oversight and accountability. I had one thing to pass out. The board has made quite an issue the last few years of the district's fluctuating monthly balances and its ability to pay the monthly bills between irregular revenue receipts. Citizens were chastised for focusing on the fiscal year ending cash balances, the same metrics used by the state law. Instead of each individual month's balance. The above chart shows the last 27 months of ending cash balances dating back to 6/30 of '21. With no new tax levy revenue received during this time, only 1 month, January of '22, has a lower ending cash balance than fiscal year '21 ending cash balance on June 30th, '21. December 2022 is the only other time the month's ending cash balance drops below fiscal year starting balance, but even that month was still more than fiscal year '21. The reality of the actual month-end cash balance does not jive with the board's talking points. As a matter of fact, again, with no new levy tax revenue, fiscal years '21, '22, and '23 all ended with higher ending cash balances than which they started, meaning the district has not been in deficit spending since 2020. Again, this is different than what the board administration has stated. And I have the ending cash balances for the last 4 years and all the monthlies. I have one for each of you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Ms. Newman, do you mind sending those written comments to us individually in the emails?
Not at all.
Thank you.
Mr. Good.
We have one more in, and we still have time. Is that all right with the board?
Yes.
All right.
Josh Henderson.
Hi, my name is Josh Henderson. I think we should just acknowledge that a theft occurred today. Someone now sits on the board who didn't earn it, doesn't deserve it, didn't go about things in the proper and right way. That should tell us everything we know about how they intend to work with the board. They got here by defying the will of the board. They're underhanded and dirty tactics. When it comes time to vote in November, we should keep that in mind. Ms. Cecil, welcome to the board. I really hope your stay is very short.
So much for saying derogatory things to the board.
And that's from a minister.
No comment? Wow.
That's all we have.
Thank you. We'll move on to administrator reports. As I always note, those reports are in board docs, and so they are available, have been available to the board to review prior to the meeting, and they are available on board docs for anyone who is looking at this meeting afterward. My report this evening is very short. First of all, I would ask that we spend just a short moment thinking about the West Claremont Board of Education and the loss of their board president, Michelle Delaney, this past week. She passed away due to cancer. And so our thoughts are with that board and with her family and with the West Claremont community. As far as my Great Oaks report is concerned, I would let you know that Great Oaks also achieved 5 stars in the overall state rating. The rating items are different than for regular normal school districts. They have an achievement, a career and post-secondary readiness goal, a graduation rate, and a post-program outcomes rate, but they are a 5-star career campuses winner, so I wanted to make that known. I will also let you know that we were supposed to have a ribbon cutting for the renovation of the Live Oaks campus at the October Great Oaks meeting. It has been pushed back due to some delays in construction. So March 13th, 2024 will be a ribbon cutting at the new campus for anyone who is interested. I will make a note that the candidate night for Board of Education, I believe, I don't have details on it, but I believe the date has been set for October 18th, which is the night after this board's next meeting, so I wouldn't have time to mention it at the next meeting, so I'm mentioning it now, but I apologize, I don't have the where or the time. I just believe that the Chamber of Commerce has set the date for October 18th. And then my final portion of my report is to note that the board has received from the treasurer to me a resignation letter. Mr. Giuffre Giuffre is resigning as of December 31st.
Time's up.
Oh, my time's up. Is that my time that's up or your time that's up? Mr. Giuffre is resigning effective December 31st, 2023. There is no board action necessary for this. If you will recall, as our treasurer, he has served on a contract that is an at-will contract, and it can be terminated at the desire of either the treasurer or the Board of Education. We certainly appreciate the work that Mr. Giuffre has done for us and will continue. He has a hefty list of things he still would like to have his department be able to accomplish before the end of the year. But we will proceed as needed to replace Mr. Giuffre starting in 2024. So, thank you, Mr. Giuffre.
Thank you.
All right, and that's it for my report this evening. And I think we move from there to student representative reports. Who's going first?
I'll go first. My name is CJ Margraf, and this is a little bit of a summary on the LCSD, LPS, and the LES board report that I received. So from a building and department project standpoint, currently beginning of the year assessments, as map testing, are wrapping up in order to properly assess the students on the curriculum that will be best for them this year, and also any extra enrichment they might need and extension programs. At LES and LPS, data reviews for the month have been completed a full week ahead of the state deadline. And these reviews will help identify students who may need a little extra support in reading, and also students who may have dyslexia. Teachers, in turn, are taking classes to better accommodate these students with dyslexia, to learn new teaching styles to help them out as well. From a professional development standpoint, meeting times at all 3 schools have been updated, and plans have been laid out to maximize professional learning time with teachers. Building goals have also been set for the year for each of the 3 buildings. New this year, K through 4 teachers have all been taking instruction on dyslexia and illiteracy, not just teachers at LECC. Some upcoming important dates: the last day of first quarter is October 12th. Fire safety presentations with the fire department for LPS and LES will be October 12th, and October 19th for LECC. The data review meetings at LECC will be the 23rd and the 24th of October, and of course, the last week of October will be for fall parties for the students. On a closing note, Mrs. Foran and Mr. Fancher, the principals, are participating in a principal roundtable for the school year to further develop their skills in order to best accommodate the students at their schools. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Aaron Spute. I'll be reading the LIS and LMS board report. So I'll start with some projects and events. In the last month, there was a staff and student safety training completed with help from the athletic director at the high school, Mr. Bryant, working on being prepared to respond in case of emergency. As DJ kind of already mentioned, there was map testing that also occurred. All students at LES and LMS have now completed their fall map reading and math and science for the 5th graders. There was a mental health presentation where the LMS Hope Squad students were able to lead this conversation with great questions, talking about tackling mental health challenges and breaking the stigma around asking for help. Special thanks to the Toni Morrison and Ben Morrison Memorial Fund for connecting us with that great opportunity. We also had 8th grade music night. I know I can speak to that personally, being a member of the marching band. It was really a fabulous event, not only for the 8th graders who get to kind of experience that Friday night buzz down at the high school, but also for the performing arts members at the high school who can take some leadership initiative there. As far as student and staff accomplishments, 20 students at LMS have won the LMS Tiger Up Student Awards for August and September, and 13 students at LIS were recognized as top-notch Tigers during lunch. The grand opening of the LIS Tiger Up store was Tuesday, September 12th. I'll finish up with something I found particularly interesting, the activities update. Extracurriculars activities are up and running at LMS. Some of the existing favorites as well as new clubs at the middle school include Dungeons and Dragons Club, the Mentor Program, National Junior Honor Society, Student Council, Yearbook Committee, World Culture Club, and with more to come. LIS is excited to offer the following: Runners Club, 6th grade Student Council, Dungeons and Dragons, Yarn Club, Hair Club, Science Club, and Taylor Swift Club.
I'm Ellie Hilliker. I am the high school Board of Education representative. To start things off, happy homecoming week. This week is full of fun activities for all of us at Loveland High School, such as lawn painting yesterday, male cheerleading, and the Power Puff game, just to name a few. Our spirit days include the ever-popular Barbie and Ken, as well as Class Color Day, in which we hold a pep rally with class competitions. We look forward to seeing everybody at the game Friday. Speaking of homecoming, a huge shout out to all of our seniors in fall sports, band, and cheerleading. Congratulations for all the focus, effort, and dedication you put towards your athletics as well as your academics. We are very proud to say that in the U.S. News and World Report Best High School Rankings, Loveland High School was ranked 927th out of 17,680 schools nationwide, number 35 in Ohio, and number 11 in the Cincinnati metro area. On an even more exciting note, Miss Table received the first ever Tiger Pro Award, which is an award given out to LHS staff members selected by a peer. Miss Table exhibits kindness, generosity, and great deals of support to not only the students, but also the staff at LHS. Congratulations to Miss Table. We are so thankful to have you here at the high school. During the Loveland versus Kings football game, we are proud to say that $15,000 were raised to support Pink Ribbon Good. This foundation provides meals, rides, cleaning essentials, and peer support for individuals battling cancer. LHS hosted the inaugural Volley for the Cure game versus Milford. It was sponsored by BF Realty, and over $5,000 were raised. The last exciting bit of news LHS has to share with you today is that the Ohio Department of Education released its annual report card with Loveland High School receiving the maximum rating of 5 stars. In conclusion, homecoming week has been a blast so far, and this month has been successful for Loveland High School.
Thank you all very much. It's very good to hear the reports from the voice and the eyes of the students who are experiencing some of that every day. So thank you very much. All right, we'll move on to superintendent's update. Can you follow that, Mr. Broadwater?
I cannot, and I do not have a bow tie either. So, that is strong. I like it, CJ. I did have a slideshow prepared. I know we're having difficulty with some of the technology. I will apologize to the board. We're back. All right.
Well, we've got it for here.
Yeah.
For those who are watching the recorded meeting tomorrow, I know that's a time travel kind of thing. That's a little hard to figure out. But we do have a PowerPoint. I would suggest, Mr. Broadwater, can we get that up on Board Docs after we're finished?
Yeah, it'll be made public.
Okay.
Yep, thank you. So, first of all, I'd apologize. The technology, I know Mr. Samuels and the rest of the group have gone through numerous times to get the glitches out, and for whatever reason, we're still experiencing. So, we're going to have to move in a different direction with what we've got going on. So,
Mike, I apologize for
Yeah.
interrupting. John, when you're recording this, do you have the slides?
You don't want me to watch him?
I think it'd be more interesting if people watching it or watching the slides rather than having to try to go through on their computer and time that. Sorry to interrupt, I just thought that would be easier.
good.
He says you're not interested in watching.
I didn't take it that way.
If you had a bow tie.
I think Ellie probably grabbed some of the thunder that we have in here, but I do want to make sure we celebrate all the great things that we have going on, and that is the 5 stars, first of all. And the 5 stars, Loveland School District is one of only 11 public school districts in the Cincinnati region of Hamilton, Butler, Warren, and Claremont to receive an overall rating of 5 stars on the Ohio School Report Card. If you're not aware, there are only 8 districts that score better than Loveland. And so we're pretty proud out of the 607. We're among the 9th and there. So I appreciate all the support that our staff gives our kids, and our students perform very, very well. It's only one snippet of what we do here, but it's a good snippet to see that we are moving along in our academics. Dr. Puerta will present at a future board meeting and break down exactly what that report card means as we get more information. That just came out September 15th. I took the time, being somebody who likes numbers and math, to take a look at, even financially, the 3 counties that Loveland City Schools serves, which is Hamilton, Warren, and Claremont. You will see there are 7 districts in Hamilton that received the perfect, 2 in Warren. There were none in Claremont County that received the perfect. Of those 9 districts that are listed, Loveland City Schools has the lowest expenditure per pupil, and that is taken straight off the 2022 report card, which is now available if you go online to Ohio Department of Education. So just a little snippet, financially taking a look at where we are, and I always say in Loveland, I believe we deliver a pretty good bang for your buck when it comes to education and what we provide for our kids. The next slide, as Ellie said, Loveland was named one of the best schools, Loveland High School, one of the best schools listed by U.S. News and World Report. We were ranked number 35. Last year we were number 45 when they took a look at it, and number 12 last year in Cincinnati. We're number 11 this year in Cincinnati, so we did make movement in both of those rankings in a positive direction. So we are very proud of what we get accomplished at our high school. Again, that is only one metric. When you look at U.S. News and World Report, it leans very heavily on AP scores, advanced placement scores, and College Credit Plus. So it is the higher academics, which we're very proud of. The town hall meeting dates is the next slide. We do have signs up around the community. There will be a postcard going out with the dates on it. The town hall meeting is basically the Board of Education gave me a direction to make sure we continue having communications with our community. So this is what we are calling our town hall meeting. Really is just listening, where we'll break into smaller groups and listen to any concerns our community members may have. There is a survey out online. I would encourage any resident to participate and give us an idea of what your thoughts are. October 4th at 6 o'clock at Loveland Intermediate School Middle School Cafeteria. We are having our first town hall. On November 8th at 6 p.m. we will be having the second one, and there will be 3 more in the spring. So I would encourage anybody who would like to make sure that we hear their ideas, that you participate. It'll be me listening, everybody discussing what their thoughts are as we move forward. I had one email that said, well, because we passed a levy, that doesn't mean we want to spend money, and that's not what this is about. This is about, are we reallocating resources? Are there better things we can do for our kids? And listen to our students, our parents, the community, and make sure that we're moving in a positive direction. If you remember 2 years ago, my first year, we did a strategic vision. The strategic vision is always going to be the template I'm using as we move forward. At the end of these town halls this year, if we feel something needs to be tweaked, changed, amended, whatever it may be, that'll be the time, and this will be the impetus for that. The other date that's on there, the showcase night, is October 25th at 6:30. We have been doing this annually, and basically it is a way for us to brag about everything we do. We are going to make sure that we have our orchestra out, and we get to see all the good stuff our band members are doing, and all the good things that are going on in the district, and it really is an encouragement for all of our community to get in and see what we do for kids and what we do here. I would also, I did not put it on here, the week of December 12th, the buildings, I have asked them to have what we would call a grandparents week, or making sure that we have the opportunity for guardians to come in and get into our buildings and experience what our kids do as well. And sometimes it's a great time because we've got Christmas concerts and different holiday concerts that we have going on that we can have the grandparents come in and enjoy. Another thing with the town hall, what you'll see is we will have fact cards out, and so I grabbed this as one fact that would be an example. And this fact we've got straight off the ODE website. I pulled this off yesterday, and it is the teacher average salary comparison for Loveland City Schools. If you notice from 2021, over the last 2 years, in 2022 and 2023, you can see the average teacher salary in blue is Loveland has decreased, whereas the state average in red has increased. And what I would say is that is basically out of our HR department and our hiring exercises and our practices of making sure we get the most qualified, but hiring at 1 or 2 years of experience as we move forward. We're able to do that. Again, I've said this many times, We have a veteran staff, an excellent staff. They're able to mentor our young teachers in an appropriate fashion. We also get the best and the brightest of the youngest teachers because teachers and graduates want to be here because this is a great school district. And so we're lucky that we're able to do that. But I do want to thank Mr. Collier for all of his efforts in making sure we're hiring the best and the brightest and doing it in a fiscally sound way. So, for example, that would be one fact card that you might see at a town hall, and simply ask people, are you aware of this? What's it say to you? And start a conversation in regards to salaries. The next slide that I made is strictly for Dr. Swetchenow, the return on investment that he likes to see, that we all like to see. This is, again, straight off the report card from the Ohio Department of Education. The metrics that I have here are the counties that we are involved in, again, Claremont, Hamilton, and we are comparing, if you notice, the vertical average is $12,599.73. That's the average expenditure per pupil among those districts. The horizontal axis, the average is the PI score, performance index score, which is 82.8, I think that's 6 if I look at it right. So the quadrant that you would want to be in, obviously you want to be above the horizontal bar in performance. When it comes to expenditures per pupil, ideally you're at average, if not below average, similar to that with expenditures. If you notice where the arrow is, we're in the quadrant you want to be in, and we have the highest performance in that quadrant. So you're trying to balance bang for your buck in terms of making sure our kids receive the best quality education possible and making sure that they're monitoring our finances as well. So that is a slide that, again, that we could bring up at the town hall and just say, what does that say to you? Because there's different things that it could say to you. Yes?
That's based on 5 stars?
I'm sorry?
That's based on the star rating?
No, those are all the districts that are in the counties. Yeah, so,
PI score.
I'm sorry, the performance index score is part of the report card. It is a separate metric that I could show you how we do it.
I've seen it.
Okay.
But it's also based on that 5-star now.
It is, yeah, thank you. And then the next slide I've got, as we get closer to the end here, we have started a superintendent's advisory group. If you remember, for the Board of Education, we did ask for the board representatives, student representatives. We had quite the interest last year in student representatives, simply probably because the levy and everything was going on. And so what we wanted to do, I wanted to make sure if those students were interested in having a voice, allowing them to have a voice. So I started up a superintendent's advisory group. All 18 students who applied to be student reps for the board have been asked to be part of the group. I did meet with them all on August 31st. I can tell you it's probably not as exciting as the Taylor Swift Club, but I gave it a shot. I felt like we had great conversations, and it really centered around mental health supports like Hope Squad, some of our advanced placement offerings and college credit plus opportunities that we have. But since we had 3 of the members here, Ellie wasn't able to attend, I know, unfortunately. But I know CJ and Aaron, I don't know if you have anything to add in regards to the discussion that we had there.
I'll just second that I thought it was a really phenomenal meeting. I think there's a lot of people who really care and are interested about what's going on here and what's going on in the schools, and everyone had very insightful things to say. I think we probably could have talked for another couple hours if the bell hadn't run and we were trying to kind of run out of there. So I think we're going to be meeting monthly now, maybe quarterly, and just definitely say it was a really great experience for sure.
I liked how each student was able to offer something from their mind as well, because while they might not be student reps, their opinion, obviously, we want their input. And so one of the kids brought up College Credit Plus, which is a great program, and so I think we will be able to expand upon that because we brought it to the board, as well as expanding upon our Hope Squad, specifically the middle school, hopefully for some continuity from the middle school Hope Squad to the high school Hope Squad to really expand our mental health resources and options for our students here.
Thanks. For me, it's enjoyable to get in and talk to the kids. We had initially thought about, I was thinking maybe quarterly. I would have the discussions. It was such good discussions. We're going to go monthly. And I want to make sure what we're talking about does follow through, that we do get get some action out of it. But I will say thank you to the three of you for participating, and I will make sure I tell the other ones as well. I hope everybody felt like they got to get their opinion across. It was a good discussion, so thank you. And along with that, the last slide that I have, I did have a board member ask about the Terrace Metric survey, so I wanted to make sure I discussed that. I did put it in the board update on Monday that I sent out. It was administered in conjunction with a grant from Hamilton County Health. It was given to our sophomore students. Parents were given the opportunity to opt out if desired. I believe we had a couple families that opted out. The high school counselors were pleased with the results as they were able to reach out to students that were not previously kind of on their radar. We had some students that the conversations that were initiated out of this were necessary and important. So it proved to be very, very vital in what we're doing with our sophomores. Any data, I know sometimes people worry about surveys. I don't like doing a whole lot of surveys. I do like doing surveys that are going to help kids, and I think this one helps students. So any data that was obtained does remain confidential with that. And so what I would like to say with the Terrace metric, we are going to make sure we follow through and take care of the kiddos that need to be taken care of, and that's why we do a survey like that. So with that, the next thing I would like to do, first of all, I forgot, I would like to say welcome to the board to Linda Cecil. Congratulations, and I look forward to, we had a good chat one day, and I appreciate that. I want to say congratulations to Mr. Jouffre as he moves forward, and the amount of work that Rob has done for this district is immense, and I appreciate it very, very much, and say thank you to you. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Jouffre in regards, yes.
Did you tell everybody where the survey you want them to fill out is?
Oh, it's on the website. If you go to, good point. If you go on our website where it says About Us, you'll see community engagement, or when you go straight to the website, you'll see the survey. We also have put the survey out on every weekly newsletter, and we put it out on the community newsletter as well.
And is there a way for someone to fill it out anonymously if they don't want to enter their email?
No, you do have to use your email. Yep. The next discussion, I'm going to turn over to Mr. Jouffre. The question that I seem to be getting a lot of is really something that is his expertise, which is, as reappraisals are coming in, what does that mean for the school district? I know a lot of people would assume that as reappraisals come in, and obviously they're pretty high this year, what does that mean for the school district? Common sense might say, well, that means the school district's getting a lot of money. It's not, unfortunately, the way it works, but instead of just saying that, I'm going to turn over to Mr. Jouffre and his special guest to kind of go through what that actually means. So, Rob?
Good. I will say that most people I've talked to would prefer for their home value to stay very low until the day before they put their house up for sale. And I think the communication that has come from Claremont County and Hamilton County has caught a few people off guard. So to just give kind of an overview, Hamilton County is in a reappraisal year, which is boots on the ground, and Claremont County is in an update year, which is based upon sales, current sales. And it is, I mean, I've been doing this a while, and this is quite a different year, unique year, so wanted to try to allay some fears. And also, instead of inviting the new Bridget Kelly, our new county auditor, who took Dusty Rhodes' place after 32 years, I think, something like that, or inviting Lynn Fraley, I have invited Matt Nolan, who gets a one-year reprieve before this begins in Warren County. So Loveland sits in 3 different counties, Loveland School District. Warren being the smallest representation, Claremont and Hamilton being pretty close to each other. And so Matt has agreed to explain how all of this works. I'm just going to run through a few numbers for you, so I hope that's not too small up there. I don't know if you can probably see it just fine. So this is, let's say this is me and my house, and this is how to do the calculation. And so, oh my gosh, all of a sudden, I'm a wealthy person with $100,000 more in market value in my house. Isn't that wonderful? I about fell over. So that $100,000 is market value, and what we're being taxed upon is an assessed value, which is 35% of that number. And so if you take 35% of that number, it's $35,000. And 1% of that is what the tax would be, because 10 mils is 1%. And what comes to Loveland City Schools, which is 4.53%, is actually $160 a year. So $80 a half. So that's the impact to me from this change in valuation of my house. One year I didn't paint my house and it went down, so that's just something. Go to the next slide. And so what does that mean to the district? Well, to the district then, our new assessed value is $315 million more, and I'm using 35%. I know that Claremont said 38, and Hamilton said 40.7, but we'll all have different amounts. It is equalization, it is how our individual houses are valued, but I'm using 35%. So at 35%, and at 45.5 and 45.6% of that total, that would mean that Loveland would have about $1.4 million a year more, which half of that would come in on this fiscal year, half on the next fiscal year. And this happens every 3 years. So I wanted to just show you a comparison. Next slide. So this comparison shows the difference. So in the past, we've been moving up about 7-8% of reappraisals every 3 years. Reappraisals every 3 years, and you probably didn't notice it as much. Sometimes it goes down, and that happens just as well. But this would be the impact on those line items for revenues between a 7% increase and a 35% increase. And you can see that is, I mean, it's actually not material, but it is what it is. That's the calculation. And so, next slide now. The trend line here, this is the trend line of revenues generated from property taxes. And what I want to point out is I took out the 4.9 mils so that we can see apples to apples, but also if you look at the bottom there, you can see 14-15. That was the last levy before the one in May. So that's why you've got the 2 bars that splits the fiscal year showing that increase in revenue. From that point forward, you can see how revenues have been impacted. That negative, that little dip there that comes, that would be your reappraisal where it didn't go up, it went down. But going forward and over the long period of time, there really isn't that much change. And that's one of the things that I will talk about with regards to the forecast. And the forecast isn't the hood ornament, it is 2 miles down the road, it's 3 to 5 years down the road. So what we're looking for is trend. If there isn't trend, then we don't typically mess with it because it's immaterial and it's not going to impact the bottom line. That is actual for 10 and projected for 4 of what real estate taxes look like with the difference between a 7 and a 35% increase in reappraisals. And as you can see there, there just isn't that much of a difference over a long period of time. If we go down 1, then we're looking now at comparing CPI to local property taxes. So 10 years in arrears, projected for 4, and you see the CPI is outpacing the increase of property taxes. The next one is really where you show the relationship. You show the relationship between, on the left, real estate property values, and on the right, Class 1 tax rate. That's residential tax rates. And the only reason that 14 has a black bar on the right-hand side going up is because there was a levy passed that year, and that levy offset the change in the effective millage. Those other 3 years, or those other 4 years, those down bars, that is a classic example of why taxes don't go up on voted millage unless you are at the floor, and we are not. We are a district that is a guaranteed district for state funding, and we are above the 20 mil floor, and so the effective millage then is reduced. And Mike will touch on that after Matt speaks, but that's a great graphic representation of the relationship between valuations and tax rates, so that the dollars stay the same on voted millage. And the last slide is just showing that out of all of the revenues for Class 1, and it's kind of small to see, but about 43 out of $82 cost per pupil. So your daily rate cost per pupil on a 5-star district at $82, $10 an hour on an 8-hour day, and a little over half of that is paid for by the Class 1 property taxes. So that's just kind of in a nutshell what the impact truly is. It's not as catastrophic as it's been made out to be. And what I've asked Matt to come in and share with you is not just the process, but also the philosophy, because there are different ones out there. Matt did a wonderful job representing the Ohio Auditors Association in June, speaking to the Ways and Means Committee about the practice of valuing property and the integrity of valuing property, and how that has worked well for a while, and try to discourage knee-jerk reactions to adjusting that. So Matt, we don't have a microphone.
I don't think I need one. Thank you, Rob. So thank you, Rob, for having me again. Matt Nolan, the Warren County Auditor. Had the pleasure working with Rob for about 20 years now. So congratulations on the retirement.
Again,
and he will claim that he invited me here. Since I'm not in a reappraisal year, the truth is the other two auditors are smart enough not to take Rob's calls. So I am here. The cycles as discussed. Warren County, frankly, most of you probably live in either Claremont or Hamilton County. You have better auditors, but unfortunately you don't live in Warren County. And Warren County has a lot of built-in benefits. One that's not talked about is we are the reappraisal cycle directly after everyone else. The state is split into thirds. Every other county that touches Warren County is up this year. We're up next year. What that allows me to do is watch what all the smart people do and do it the right way the next year. So it's been a huge advantage for us over the last 2 decades, where we have seen unprecedented drops and unprecedented increases in values. Never before, other than the Great Depression, did we have in 2008, 2009. Never before have we had 35, 38, 40% increases in 3 years. So as we try to decipher how to handle these things, we have to understand that we're doing it in unprecedented times. As Rob said, there are different philosophies on how to do things. The expression we use in the auditor's world is 88 counties, 88 ways to do things. I may be right, there may be wrong. You all elect your auditors and they get to decide how to do things. For the most part, they're fairly similar. And the way we value property is not rocket science. There are a lot of complexities to it. And every year the state legislature adds some new complexity to make all our lives a little harder. But the basic way of valuing property from the auditor's standpoint is really very straightforward. We take what the values are in your neighborhood, we take what the prices are selling for, we average them out, and we get them closer together. It's just that. And so if every home in your neighborhood is valued at $100,000, and they're all selling at $130,000, then we need to increase the values closer to $130,000. And that's what state law requires. How close do we get to $130,000 is a debate. In Warren County, we try to average 95%. So we get up near $122,000. Some will be a little lower. Some will be at 120. Some will be at 130. The goal is to never go over. It's like The Price is Right. As close as you can get without going over. That's always our goal in valuation. And I think we get it right in Warren County about 99% of the time. There's 110,000 parcels, so 1% wrong. There's probably about 1,000 parcels that we are off on. And so that's just a rate with mass appraisal that we have to accept. I would say of that 1,000 parcels, 900 of them we have valued too low. The other 100 we probably have valued too high. And there's a process for that. If at any point you think your value is too high, you have the right to come to what we call the board of revision. Every county has one. And say, my value is too high because of X, Y, and Z. And you have to show it. You have to show my house sold for this. My value, got it appraised by the bank. They said it was this. It is very, very rare that a county has a house that's not in disrepair overappraised. But if it is, bring that up. What you should not ever bring up is my neighbor's value is too low. And that's what we hear almost all the time, is I was over at a party the other night, and their house is much nicer than mine, but you've got it valued lower. County auditor doesn't. That's not how the process works. That's not going to help you out. So the real goal that we ask everybody to do is decide, do we have your value appropriately? And I think that's the job of the county auditor. If we have valued properties appropriately, everything else should work it out its way out. what you've heard a lot of on WLW and in the Inquirer is values are out of control. We should manipulate the values so that taxes don't go up too much. That is a bad idea in my opinion. It may help you. It may help keep values down, which does in turn somewhat, showing where Rob's at, keep taxes down. But it picks different winners and losers, and it makes the values that we have on your property mean nothing. And so there's a lack of trust with the auditor's office if the values that we have don't mean anything. In Hamilton County, prior to Dusty, the way Dusty got elected to office, Dusty is one of the best county auditors in state history, one of the best guys in state history. The way he got elected to office is his predecessor had an FOJ. Friends of Joe? Joe DeCourcy. And so if you had an FOJ on your property record card, your value was always less than everybody else's. Good friend to have. Kept your value down, kept your taxes down. When we manipulate the values and don't use the true values, that's the kind of system we can set up. So that's what I've argued against. That's what I'll testify against. I don't know if it'll get anywhere. But the practice that we all use in the counties is to get your value up. Day one, we're too low. As I said, we're trying to be at about 95% of values. So day one, we're too low. And when you're on a value increase chart like this, where they go up 10 to 15% every year, day two, we're even lower. We're even lower. And so there's going to be a big swing to catch up. And to be frank, I think that's going to continue. For a variety of reasons, housing values in Southwest Ohio are going to continue to go up. This is where people want to live. We have the best school districts in the state. We have lower taxes than anywhere else in the state. There is some housing, but not enough housing. Actually, there's just not enough housing. Ignore the some part. And so values are going to keep going up. By living in a district like Loveland, like Kings, like Mason, you are not going to see taxes go up at nearly the same rate. I will tell you, if you look at every other district around those, every other district in Warren County, most districts in Claremont County, all of that Rob just showed is completely wrong, completely off. And so in Lebanon schools where I live, we expect to see a 30% value increase. They will see a 15 to 20% increase in their taxes. Triple what Loveland will see. That's a result of a strategy, frankly, before Rob might have put it into place at some point, where they didn't try to hit the floor. There's something called the 20 mil floor. Don't want to go too deep in. If your school district hits the 20 mil floor, you're getting a lot of unvoted increases in your taxes. Every other district in Warren County has that outside of Kings and Mason. They are going to see massive increases. So when you hear in the news them talking about double-digit increases in taxes, they're not talking about Loveland. They are talking about Lebanon, Little Miami, Franklin, Carlisle, all the districts in Warren County, most in Claremont, most in Butler County. So that's what we're looking at for those districts. We can discuss right, wrong, that's for our legislators to decide, but that's how the process works. Anybody has questions? This is complicated. I'm much better at answering questions than giving my spiel, but if there's anything I can specifically address for you, there will be, anybody here that lives in Warren County? All right, your taxes are going to go down next year. So the reason is the values of the district are going to go up dramatically, which moves the rates down dramatically. Your values are not going to change until the following year. So all of those rates are going to decrease for everybody. Without the value going up, your taxes go down. So you'll get the increase from the levy, but they'll go down so much, you'll see virtually no change in your taxes or decrease. So another good reason, everybody move to the Warren County side of Loveland.
I see everyone calling their real.
There's no houses, I'm sorry. There's Chimney Ridge, I think it's the only subdivision left.
Matt, could you, I know you touched on it, could you talk about the difference in philosophy between the 3-year look back and on that date, that's how much that house should be worth?
Sure, yeah, and that's the big conversation right now. It passed out of the House Ways and Means Committee today, despite my best efforts. There is a philosophy that Butler County and Claremont County believe in, and that is that there's a 3-year period that we're reappraising your house for. So we should take the last 3 years, we should average them out, and we should increase by that amount. And so using a basic math, values went up 10% each year, Average that out, value should only go up 10 or 15%. I have a huge problem with that. Our job, in my opinion, is to value your house on January 1st of 2023. By using that methodology, we are way below what your value was January 1st, 2023. Who does that hurt? That's the argument you'll hear from a lot of people. Why not? Who cares if we're a little lower in value? And maybe that's okay with everybody. I have a small little world in the auditor corner. That's not the right way to do things in my mind. It hurts the school district. You know, we asked Rob to try and plan for what his budget's going to be. Very difficult to do when we have no idea what the values are going to be, what your auditor's going to do. You have 3 different auditors, he's got to predict what we're going to do, and that's a challenging thing in the first place. And then at the last minute, the state legislature, I've been talking about this coming school floor crisis for 6 years. The state legislature's done nothing. Not one thing, not addressed it, not had a committee meeting on it, didn't discuss it until July of this year when everybody noticed that property values were going up. How many people here knew property values were going up? But no one in the state legislature knew. I don't understand how that's possible, but everyone in this room knew, but no one in the state legislature knew. So in July, they decided we got to come up with a Band-Aid to fix this, and so we'll just average it out for 3 years. It also isn't fair. If your house is at $700,000 and you get a value that's supposed to go up 30% and only goes up 15%, that's one number. If your house is at $200,000 and you get a value increase that's supposed to be 30%, but it's only 15%, that's a much smaller number. You're not treating people fairly, and as a result, all the districts, the fire departments, the school districts, the townships, all are going to require more money. And so that's an unequitable way to do things. The idea of property taxes is that they're supposed to be equitable. There are a lot of problems with property taxes. I think it's the worst form of taxation that exists. But it's the one we have. And so trying to keep it equitable is the only fair part about it. Property taxes are poor. Do not treat people that have fixed incomes or are elderly well, right? And Ohio is one of the worst states for that. People call me all the time and say, what should I do about property taxes? I say, move to Florida. Much better for taxation. A lot of problems. We don't have hurricanes in Ohio. But when it comes to property taxes, we don't do it well here. And so that's the strategy that Claremont County has supported, Butler County has supported. They have very good reasons for it. They want to help their residents. They're very concerned about these massive increases. My approach is very, very different. My approach is on the rate side. We should adjust rates. Frankly, my approach would do nothing for Loveland. You guys would get exactly what you got. It would adjust the floor and get into complicated things that you don't need to worry about inside this district. But this is a much easier approach. It definitely sounds better. I think it doesn't treat values the way they should be treated. And it's the bigger point, I was in the auditor's office in 2009. Not many other people were there at that time. The approach that's being used, 2007, 2008, 2009, 5% increase, 10% increase, 15% decrease. You average those out, you have a small increase or stay flat. So in 2009, you would have told people who just entered the greatest recession of our lifetimes that their property values are staying the same or going up slightly. That's bad policy. That's what the law that got through committee today will do. I was told we'll worry about that crisis when it happens. So that's an option. I've been around too long and seen those things happen, but there is a lot of concern about property taxes. Nobody wants property taxes to go up, but the reality is the system is set up so that they do go up at a steady pace, and as Rob demonstrated, for Loveland schools, that will be the case. There are places it's not, but here it is.
So did that carry over for Hamilton as well?
Say that again.
Did that carry as an average for Hamilton as well?
About 38%. What?
The averaging 3 years?
Oh, that's state law. That's state law. So that's the state law. That's right now the State Department of Taxation says we use the sales in the last year. So we'll use the sales over the last 12 months. We'll average them out. We'll compare them to values. That's what the current Department of Taxation does and believes state law says. That's what I believe state law says. The law that's in place, and it's a different question, but a good one, is the law that they're trying to pass will average those 3 years out. The problem is You already got a letter from Bridget saying what your value is. Many of you gotten that letter. So can they pass a law now that overturns that letter?
That's what I'm asking.
That's the question nobody knows. That's the question that nobody's, I think the answer is it's impossible. 2 years of work went into coming up with that number. So now to take 2 months to revise that number seems, again, impossible to me. Very difficult. There are like 4 people that work in the Department of Taxation, equalization, this part. So to ask them to do that for 40 counties, I have no idea how they could get that done. I think most likely, if it's legal to do it all, you would get one tax bill at a higher number in the winter, and then they'd fix everything by the summer, and they'd send out a second tax bill. Very difficult. Almost no one pays taxes that I know directly anymore. Almost everybody escrows, right? So most of you pay into an escrow account. No, you don't? Okay, most people do. Most people do pay into an escrow account. Escrow accounts have a tough time keeping up with small increases and decreases in taxes. To see 2 different taxes in a first half and second half, a lot of banks would get driven crazy trying to figure that all out and adjust your payments to that. So that's all complicated stuff. It'll get figured out if it needs to get figured out, but that's just the practical side of it.
Slightly different topic.
I'm sorry, Ms. Cecil, I can't hear your question at all, so I'm sure the audience can.
I started to say slightly different topic.
Wasn't working.
Are you hearing anything about the sales tax rebate on property tax bills?
You're talking about Hamilton County? No, there's no, I mean, Warren County, we don't have any sales tax rebate. All of that's related to the stadium and all those types of things. Doesn't apply at all to Warren County. We have no stadiums except our little tennis center, and I'm trying to keep that, but no, we don't tie any of that together. Again,
Okay. Thank you very much.
thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Rob, can I go back and just ask 2 quick questions about your presentation? The first one, and I don't expect that you have this answer right away, is I think there was a comment that Loveland property taxpayers pay 52% of the average cost for educating a child. That was your last slide. If you want to flip back to it. Do we have any idea what that spans over the state?
I do not.
I have a feeling that one of our problems in Loveland is our high reliance on property taxes with the lack of businesses. It would be an interesting thing for us to know how much is our tax base burdened by this compared to other tax bases, especially in light of the fact that the state support for school districts varies tremendously from district to district.
I think I can get that.
Okay, and no rush, it's a question that came up when I saw that.
Okay.
And then the second one is, I don't really think that you commented during the presentation, and again, I don't expect you necessarily to have an answer for this right now. Inside millage will change. So in the graph that you showed that shows that the overall tax rate will go down as your property value goes up because our levies are fixed to a certain amount, if I said that correctly. Do you have an idea of how much Loveland School District will increase their revenue next year if a 35% rate goes through as they projected based on
That's what we had.
inside millage?
That was inside millage.
Second slide.
Those slides were just inside millage.
Yeah, slide down a little bit more. That'd be the total increase right there.
So yeah, that's the one that I want to go over again. So the inside millage increase next year, is that projecting a 45% increase in tax value?
35.
Okay. Is that we'll see 1.43 extra that we don't typically see.
Well, we wouldn't see that. I put 12.5 in for this, so that is what full amount would be. So I'd use 12.5 because I heard rates were going up and kind of felt, but I didn't anticipate 35 or 40.
Right. And so just because I'm so confused on it, so our anticipation of what we will see extra next year is what?
The 1.436, half of it we'll receive in the last half of this fiscal year through June, and then the next half of it we'll receive in the first half of 2025 fiscal year.
But you're asking what the difference is between what we now anticipate versus what was originally forecast, using the 12% versus the 35%.
So
we're going to get an extra million-ish?
Yes, that's a good number.
I also have a question which you won't know the answer to yet. You will begin to be able to project what the 4.9 mil levy will be, the effective rate of that will be. Is that correct? at
Matter of
some
fact,
point?
Mike's going to wrap it up with that very
Oh.
detail.
Was that a good segue or what?
Oh, that's very good.
Kind of relates to what Dr. Swetchenowski said. Rob had talked about the unvoted or the inside millage. The voted is what I'll discuss. The voted millage, which was the 4.9 mil levy that was passed in May, if it's at a 35%, let's say, the effective mills will go down to about 3.1, 3.15. Okay, so your 4.9 mill levy that was passed in May, if there's a 35% increase in appraisals with the reappraisals, it'll be about 3.15 effective mills. Before the passage of the 4.9 mill levy, the total effective mills for Loveland City School District was at 36.9. Remember, we had a chart where it showed 36.9 effective mills. After the passage of the 4.9, when you add that levy in, our effective mills are still going to go below 36. They'll be at 32.15, which is probably the lowest it's been, if not since House Bill 920, pretty close. So our effective millage will be at 32.15. There's voted and unvoted. The unvoted is what Mr. Giuffre went over. The voted is the effective millage that I just reviewed right there. That is where House Bill 920 says we're not getting any more funds, even though the reappraisals hit. And so during the levy and the discussions we had, I think we said it was going to be about $14 or $15 per 100,000. That's going to stay the same. It's not going to cost the homeowners any more money. It's going to be the unvoted, which is $1.4 million, and you had already budgeted 12% in, so about $1 million. So I don't know if that clarifies the question you were asking.
Well, and I would just point out too, and Mr. Nolan, thank you very much for your presentation. That was really helpful, and I wanted to dive into how do we get to the floor, but I figured that's the appropriate time to do that. But again, the fact that Loveland has chosen a strategy not to go to that, A, protects our taxpayers tremendously right now, and B, allows the taxpayers to have a say on whether they think that it's worth increasing their property taxes to fund the schools, as opposed to many other school districts whose taxpayers don't have that option. So I think that that's an important thing to state as well.
Mike, the 32.15 in there, is that taking into account the inside mills?
Yes.
Okay.
Inside mills are in both of those. It does not include the debt, which should be down to $0.25 mil in '24, or the PI, which was at 3.8, now would be 4.3. Well below.
Thank you both. Is that the end of your report?
That's it.
That's enough numbers for tonight?
That's enough.
All
Yes.
right. Thank you both. Thank you. I realize we're outside of auditor's hours. so I
Now,
appreciate your
if I can
time.
have a help, let me know.
Thank you. All right. I think then we're ready to move to Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources and the Human Resources Employment Recommendations. And so would it be appropriate for us to go ahead and make that first motion, Mr. Collier, and then we'll get to our questions. All right, so we need a motion to approve the resolutions, including resignations and employment of certified classified homebound substitute and supplemental positions for the 2023-2024 school year.
Move.
Reverend Island moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Mrs. Washburn seconded, I think.
Yes.
We did note that you arrived. We're glad to have you here with us. Thank you. And so now we'll go ahead and have a report from Mr. Collier, and then if there are questions, we'll get into them.
Sounds great. Hi, everybody. I'm Garth Collier, the Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources. I'm glad that you were all here tonight. Members of the board, I just wanted to make sure, I know there was a small change in the document. You'll notice that it noted in yellow. But before we get to that, we do have, in Section A, we have a couple of resignations and one retirement. The retirement piece, I want to make sure to mention, for any of you who have ever spent any time at Loveland High School, there is a gentleman who had been working there and who was just resigned and retiring, and that is Chris Springborn. He was an aide that worked with us with some of our special needs students. He is a very upbeat guy and really great at his job, and he's going to be greatly missed. And then we have a couple of resignations. T. McCoy, if anybody who is involved with LECC, she has been the health aide down with our youngest students. She's moving on to a different position that's outside of the district. And then there's just another resignation from a paraprofessional or an aide who had just started with us for this year. And she's actually moving back to our hometown. So, and then I want to make sure to bring to your attention down to section E. And that is talking about the health aide at LECC. We have interviewed and we have offered the position to Tabby Stinnett. And the effective date for her, we didn't think that her fingerprints and her licensure were going to come back as quickly as they did. She passed, it was great. She picked up 2 other shifts with her other job, so this date was pushed 2 days later than originally it was there. Just making sure that you know that. And then the rest of the pieces, in the information that I sent you guys had some explanations or anything that was in there. If you guys have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Any HR questions? Seeing none, we're ready to vote, I think.
You went so quick.
Sorry about that. Should I do the roll call?
All right, can we vote, Mr. Dupre?
Trevor Nyler,
Yes.
Mrs. Washburn,
Yes.
Mrs. Susie,
Yes.
Dr. Lorenz,
Yes.
and Dr. Schweitzer.
Yes.
Motion carried. Then we have one more item. I will move that we approve the OC non-public drivers memorandum of understanding. Is there a second?
Second.
And was that Mrs. Washburn?
Yes,
Okay,
sorry.
that's all right.
Try not to spread my germs.
It's okay, just checking. And so if you would give us a little background on that, that would be good.
So the reason for this MOU is that for those of you who might not be aware, so we, and if anybody is interested in driving a bus, please let me know. We have positions available to drive a bus. But not only do we have to transport, of course, our students here, we don't have any busing at the high school, but our middle school and down, we provide busing for those students. But we also have to provide busing for the non-public schools. So somebody, you might think of it as like a private school. So something that happens is that our calendar, in essence, when it's a Loveland working day, when our school is in session, versus when a private school is in session, those calendars don't always match up. So let's take spring break, for example. If there is a private school that we provide the transportation for, Loveland is on spring break, but that other school is not on spring break, then we need to be able to have a way for our drivers to be able to work and still provide transportation for that other group. And this is what outlines that process. We've been having some trouble making sure that all of those get filled. So we've worked, Mr. Ames and myself have been working with the OPC group, who has been really great, and trying to brainstorm some ideas. And this is what outlines that process for us. And it's in administrative view for you guys to see. The OPC group has already ratified it, so it's coming before the board tonight. And of course, it would be made public if tonight the vote goes to where you would approve it. Any questions for me on that?
And I think you had given us in a report a little bit more information, which was that in the OPC agreement, which we ratified last month, there was a feeling that this was all worked out.
Yes.
And it was not,
Correct.
neither side had realized some of the permutations of it. And so this is just to
Yep.
straighten it out.
So that's a great point, Dr. Lorenz. So we went through the negotiations process. This was a topic. We had representation of the transportation department. What we didn't have was our director of transportation. He wasn't there. We actually thought we had all of this figured out. And then once we were basically finished with it, and there were some bus drivers and then the transportation supervisor started digging in, they said, whoa, wait a minute. We don't think this did what you thought that it did, and come to find out that that's true. So that's when the OPC leadership and John and myself, we all sat down together to talk about that specific piece of language within the contract, that we had to come up with some different language to make sure that we were taking care of the pieces that we thought we had taken care of. It's a great point.
Any questions? Seeing none, can we vote on that?
Dr. Lorenz,
Yes.
Mrs. Washburn,
Yes.
Ms. Cecil,
Yes.
Reverend Eiler,
Yes.
Dr. Schweitzer.
Yes.
Motion carried.
I do have one quick comment to make sure. Mr. Broadwater was talking earlier, and he was being very kind and talking about, the particular slide was talking about teacher pay, an average teacher pay salary. And of course, over the past couple of years for us, that we have been in a decrease with that. He was trying to be nice, and I appreciate it, Mike. But, and it is a part of our hiring strategies that we've used. We've been trying to save money, which of course we've been doing, which is great. But also, with our associations, with them, and you guys probably know this, but I want to make sure to speak to it. Some of those groups, our workers had taken 0% raises for like increases. So maybe they would get a step increase, but not a base increase. And having a couple of those years in a row with having zeros, with everybody else in the state not taking zeros, is also a part with some of our hiring practices where those averages are coming closer together. So I just wanted to make sure to point out and to let our OPC group, our administrators, and our teaching staff, our LEA, to make sure to thank them as well. Because working together on that was another piece that made that happen. So that's all.
Thank you. Thanks for mentioning it. We did talk a little bit about it when we were able to approve the LEA and the OPC
Absolutely.
contracts, but
Yep.
it bears repeating. So
Yes.
thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
All right. All right, I think we then move into treasurer reports, and so the first thing would be a motion to accept the financial reports and to approve the purchase of a $250,000 par value bond, purchased at a discount for $248,312.50 with a 5.155% yield to maturity, which is lovely. So is there a motion? So moved. Mrs. Washburn moved. Is there a second? Second. Ms. Cecil, second. Mr. Giuffre, any comments on the financial reports? Any comments on the bond?
As we've had maturities, we were laddering out. This one is a callable, but going forward, we've been looking more at slightly lower CDs that don't have a call date, so we don't have reinvestment yield. But I want to meet with Finance Committee in the next month and talk about maybe taking some of the weaker positions and look at a strategy to try to get them out there while the rates are where they are. We're looking probably at a couple of years of the interest rate environment we're in, maybe less. But no reason that we can't strategize and use that. We could take some of the shorter term, low interest and put it out longer so that we're getting more for more return on investment. But I'd like to have that conversation and maybe even bring in our advisor to have that conversation and take a couple of examples that we could use. And that way, going into the next fiscal year, we would still have the laddered bond portfolio strategy, but would be positioning with that in mind.
Yeah, that sounds great. I definitely support taking advantage of this while we have the opportunity.
It's hard to get used to.
Yeah, considering when we started, which was only 3 years ago, when I started 3 years ago, it was 0.5%.
All right. Thanks. Any other questions or comments? Can we vote on that?
Mrs. Washburn?
Yes.
Ms. Cecil?
Yes.
Reverend Eiler?
Yes.
Dr. Lorenz?
Yes.
Dr. Schweitzer?
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carried. We do have a donation to accept, so I move that we accept the donation of $300 to Feed the Kids Fund. Is there a second? Second. Mrs. Washburn seconded. She's moving and seconding like crazy. She thinks she missed, you really didn't miss that many motions. Well, you really didn't miss that many. We had a lot of discussion while you were absent. But anyway, it's fine. It's fine. You're catching up here. Any questions or discussion? As always, we're appreciative. This is a different donation from the last time, even though they seem similar. It is an additional donation. Okay, Mr. Giuffre.
Dr. Lorenz?
Yes.
Mrs. Washburn?
Yes.
Ms. Cecil?
Yes.
Reverend Eiler?
Yes.
Dr. Schweitzer?
Yes.
Motion carried. The next item is approval of the 23-24 permanent appropriations. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Nobody wants to spend money?
No, I moved.
I'll second. not hearing anything there. So this is to approve the permanent appropriations and direct the treasurer that any use of the contingency budgetary line item be directed by action of the board. This is something that we've instituted before, so appreciate it being called to attention there as well, so.
So this is the fourth step in the budgetary process, and budgetary compliance has a couple components, without getting into great detail, because this is why I don't get invited to a lot of dinner parties, but the fundamental formula is that revenues have to be more than estimated, and expenditures have to be less than appropriated. So just given that formula, your ending balance should be different than you project in a forecast, but this is the current budgetary fiscal year. So this is the here and now, whereas the forecast is further down the road. We try to bring as much as, and I think we have been bringing any kind of amendments to the appropriations on a monthly basis back to the board. I do them all in bulk because it's a lot easier for the auditors to find, and anything we can do to make their job easier, we try to. And so this is just a standard permanent appropriations for the current fiscal 24 year. And Andrew, if you could throw up that, I'm not going to completely address it tonight, but I just did want to put up an answer to the why question here. So these are the differences from the May to the end of the year with regards to revenues and expenditures. So I'll start with the expenditures because that's easy. That's 1.5%. That's well within margin. And why wouldn't you adjust it in May? Because the worst thing you can do, in my opinion, is to move the target, especially if this target is the end of the road for the current year. I'm looking 3 to 5 years out. If you move something that's trend without a lot of analytics before you do that, which would be in the fall, which is when most of the changes occur after the budget has been approved by the state, after we have our CBAs in place, then that's the time to take a look at those. But 1.5% for expenditures is awfully good. The revenues, if you would slide down just ever so slightly to the revenues, just to point out that on the right-hand side, that is really hard to see, but on the right-hand side, all of the large numbers have a small variance, and those are the ones we focus on. Other is not a trend line item. So for example, I did not trend out $500,000 more in interest revenue because 5 years from now, it's not going to be that. So I don't typically touch immaterial, non-trend things. I usually use the prior year. I will not use the prior year for the upcoming estimate on interest, but I will tweak it a little bit, but nothing that's going to change the end of the period of time that we're projecting to. And then if you scroll just a skosh down, there's another. So that one, that's a pretty big hit of 5-figure money, and that would have been a reimbursement from a prior year expenditure. Also at other, we would have had 2 reimbursements from 2 prior years for special needs, which is in excess of $300,000. And we got a late one in July, and then we got an early one in June, or timed one in June that it should have been. So the revenue differences aren't from the large line item trend numbers, which is good. It's from the other. And so, and I think Dr. Swetch, now you pointed this out, if you scroll back up there, Andrew, 1.9 all the way up. Thank you. $1.9 million, it's a lot of money. It's one payday. However, compared to $53 million or $54 million, it isn't. But compared to the ending balance, it is. So when we do the forecast, and Mike and I will probably talk next month about House Bill 33 as it applies to Loveland, and then we'll do the forecast in November. But I'll try to make sure I touch on the difference between the current fiscal year appropriations and budgetary compliance and what the forecast, what we're really looking for in the forecast. Because I'll tell you, it really hasn't changed. We still have, expenditures and revenue. The main line is expenditures over under revenues, and that did not change one iota from how we landed from what we were projecting. And Mike and I will share that to you in the next couple of months as we work through the state budget, which goes into effect next month.
I was just going to make a comment that there was a plan to have some of this discussion both in August and this month with a planned legislator appearance to talk about the state budget and combine all of that so we could kind of make sense of what the state budget was doing to Loveland, what our budget was doing to Lebanon. Both of those times, that has not happened. In addition, you have shared with me that we still don't know all of the pieces of the state budget and how they will be enacted, how they will affect Loveland. So that was another reason for the delay of that complete discussion of state budget, Loveland budget, money in general. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes. And even after we know, we may not still know. I remember House Bill 66 where they phased out business taxes. It took 18 months before they finally decided what we were actually going to do over the next 5 years, but.
I think that's the quote for the evening. Even after we know, we still may not know. Okay.
Thank you.
Right.
Oh,
So can you scroll down?
what's that?
Can you scroll down to the next screen?
Next screen is revenue, and one after that is expenditure.
Yep. Very difficult to see.
It is. I can put it out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it on board docs yet?
It will be.
All right. Then we can adjust our eyes to it. Okay, any other questions or discussion? Mr. Giuffre?
Dr. Schwetchenow?
Yes.
Dr. Lorenz?
Yes.
Ms. Cecil?
Sure.
Reverend Island?
Yes.
Ms. Washburn?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Motion carried. I believe the only other item on the agenda is an agreement with Loveland Youth Soccer.
Yes, and Mr. Bryant is here
Oh,
to
he
speak on
is.
that behalf.
I didn't see him back there. I was kind of waiting to.
Not very tall.
I'm sorry. Well, there's a bookshelf back there that I think.
Better than saying chair.
Thank you. So let's have a motion to approve the agreement with Loveland Youth Soccer.
So moved.
I heard Reverend Island first and Mrs. Washburn second. Okay, and now we will have some discussion. First, we'll have some explanation. Mr. Bryant.
Absolutely. In sticking with our strategic vision and realizing additional revenue sources for the district, I was approached by a group within Loveland who was ready to write a pretty significant check outside of Loveland to use their turf facility. That money was significant. Luckily, that individual lived right down the street, and we were able to have several conversations while walking our dogs. Where that has gone into is a formal agreement with Loveland Youth Soccer to use our turf facility throughout the winter months. They would never displace any of our teams, but it is a time when our facility is not in use. And my office, my department is willing to take on the responsibility of making sure everything is ready for them and everything is cleaned up after they're finished.
The agreement is on board docs, and I believe it was Dr. Swetchenow who caught a typo in that agreement. Is that correct?
Yes. I'm practicing for when you're
Okay.
not.
So, can we ask questions now?
Yes.
Thanks. I'm just curious how we decided to come to an agreement with Loveland Youth Soccer when I know that other organizations have approached us throughout the years to rent the facilities and also make large donations. And I know that Dr. Swetchenow and I have advocated for that revenue to bring it in. So how was the decision made to work with one organization and not others?
I believe, and I don't want to speak out of turn, I believe there's board policy for a percentage of the group has to be a percentage of Loveland students in order to do that. I believe that Loveland Youth Soccer is in the high 90s. The revenue generated is significant, much more so than I believe other groups have brought in. And honestly, I think it's a time of change. I had a conversation, it seemed to work out, I'm willing to do the work. And honestly, it starts a path of realizing additional revenue, and that revenue can push our facilities forward so that we can provide the absolute best facilities, not only for our student athletes, but for our communities and our kids.
Taking a look at it, and to say thanks to Mr. Bryant first of all, but as he came aboard, it was to let's see how we can utilize our facilities, A, so our community could use them, and B, also an alternative funding source. I think this is a good toe in the water to see how it goes, how it functions. The board does have a policy that does limit some outside groups based on the number of athletes that are participating that are Loveland residents. So that could be a further discussion, but I think this will be a good litmus test because it is significant money, and we do want to make our facilities accessible to our community as long as we're able to upkeep them and continue. But I appreciate the efforts, and it's a good question in regards to other groups, because I'm sure that will come up.
Right, and as you start to entertain any group coming into a facility, there's a management side of this that becomes significant. There's preparation, there's during the contest, there's after the contest, to make sure what we always call school ready, so that our kids aren't ever put on a back burner for anything. So if we have 1,000 kids and 5 or 6 teams going through the Turf Stadium on a Sunday, on Monday, if our PE classes are going up there at 8:30 in the morning, they have to be ready to go. So there is some management, there is some work to be done, but like Mike said, it is a great start. And I think it's down a path to realizing some additional revenue so that we can increase or improve our athletic facilities district-wide.
There's probably no reason that we can't say the number. I mean, the agreement is a public document. You said significant, and we can put the $50,000 to that, correct? So
Correct.
You are correct that it's significant.
It's a significant
I
number.
didn't want anybody to feel like we were not releasing the number.
It's not $25.
Mr. Bryan, I'd like to personally say thank you, because I know that this is an issue that we've discussed as a board previously, and one of my goals when I first came a few years ago that I haven't been able to realize until now is to make sure that we're using all of our facilities in a way that benefits our entire community, not just allowing children to play sports in those fields when they're not being used, but also to decrease the burden on the rest of our community as far as the maintenance of those fields, and this is a huge step in the right direction. I would echo Eileen a little bit, and I don't want to misquote board policy, but I do agree that our bias is towards using the facilities for groups that reside in Loveland. I think that if this looks like it's successful and we're going to move it forward, we should look at a way that we make sure that we're maximizing our value.
In a former life, in a former district, we were very oriented towards renting out facilities as a revenue stream. And honestly, it becomes very competitive when you talk in the club soccer world. You were looking at, if you have club soccer kids, you've written that check. There are significant dollars out there, and if they have the ability to go to one spot on one weekend or 1 week, the $50,000, while significant, it is a small number in the grand scheme of things when you start to talk about some of the rentals that we could have. As Mike alluded to, we would have to look at board policy and maybe putting it into a little bit more of a competitive arena on this is what we're going to charge, are you willing to pay that amount?
Only we have a policy committee.
I know, I'm looking forward to being a major part of that committee. But and all kidding aside, and I think that these are the conversations that need to be had over time, how do we balance the needs of the community and our desire to support our community and the needs of the school district and our desire to maximize revenues? And I appreciate your ability and your willingness to manage this, because that's been challenging in the past.
It's just having a very broad brush and making sure that you understand stakeholders, the timing of things and the transition in between events, so that you really start internal first and then you just move out, and then if there's time available, it just takes time and effort, which will do anything for our kids to put them in a good position.
If I could throw two thoughts in. Number one, we'll take the direction from the board, where you would like to go. This will be a good litmus test to see how we can manage it, but the management of it is where it's going to be difficult when you get 1, 2, 3, 4 outside groups coming in. Now, it's not one person taking care of it on Sunday. There's going to be, somebody's going to have to manage that, and that's going to be part of, if there's rentals, how does that look, and who takes care of that? And so that's the balance.
That work is going to be significant.
That could be significant.
Well, and quite frankly, there's going to be some partners who are more willing to be, more willing to put effort into keeping the facilities clean and tidy, and some partners that will feel, entitled to do whatever they want because they paid for it.
It was something that, honestly, in my previous district, we would evaluate rentals on an annual basis, and basically we would have an internal audit of how they treated not only us, but also our facility, and the ability to work with them, for them to follow direction, for them to be flexible, because just in the fall, I don't know when our soccer teams are going to play tournament games. I could have this group using the turf in the middle of October, and all of a sudden they have to move. Well, some people are good with change, and some people are flexible, and some people are not. So it's just, it's something that you can audit and keep track of. It's definitely part of the process.
Did you say 2 things and you got both of them in there?
I've got both of them.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
They were quick.
Might have to be sure. Any other questions? Thanks very
Thank
much
you.
for coming to
You're welcome.
help us take care of this. Can we vote on that?
Reverend Adams,
Yes.
Ms. Washburn,
Yes.
Ms. Cecil,
Yes.
Dr. Lorenz,
Yes.
Dr. Schweitzer.
Yes.
Motion carried. We have come to the end of the meeting. Two things I would like to say. First of all, again, our apologies for anyone who is listening to this tape, which will be provided as normal tomorrow or as soon as possible, but our apologies for not having this meeting streamed. We constantly try to make sure that technology works, and we seem to, more often than we wish, have troubles with it, so our apologies for that. Second of all, I would just hope that anyone who has been here at this meeting or at any meeting that this Board of Education has can see by the work that we do that we are not a political body. We do not engage in politics, and that we work together for the students of Loveland, and I would assume that we're going to continue to do so, whatever the makeup of the board. Welcome, Ms. Cecil, and thanks for being here at this meeting. Thanks, everybody, for being here.
Can I make an additional comment in that regard too? I was a bit taken aback by one of the public comments. One of the things I've really appreciated the 2 years I've been on the board is that people have kept comments during that time impersonal in the way, and I think people have been very respectful in the way that they've addressed the board. So I looked up our policy after, and I think it's also important that there's a comment section. It's not a time for dialogue or debate. However, I think it's important to look at what our policy is, and I just want to read this so that we make sure we're clear about this. For privacy reasons, persons wishing to address the board should refrain from comments that name individual students, staff, administration, or community members. The board will not address complaints against staff, the administration, or curriculum or instructional materials during public participation. So I think it would be helpful at our next meeting, since I think one of the comments got far more personal than it should have, according to our policy today, that we read that ahead of time of public comment next time, so to remind the whole audience of what our expectations are.
Do we qualify as staff? I don't think I hear anything about school board members. We're out of the firing line.
Well, of course, it's always difficult to maintain that reply to one but not reply to another. You know, it's so. I think it's a good point that we state exactly what our expectations are and what should be expected of us. So, thanks. All right. At this point, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Washburn and Dr. Swetchfeld moved. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Meeting adjourned at 7:45.
All right, thank you.